Good evening. I'm Sean Childs of fantasyanalyst.substack.com. I am about to start a 14-team NFFC online event. It's $2,000 entry fee. First prize is $16,000. I haven't done a class in a number of years. I've been was in an initial 2004 league in Las Vegas. Won the league actually. Was totally against the game. Mark Shrebro was in my league, and I battled him till the end. I won the league, but he won the overall championship, and I think that was kind of an interesting year. But set my stage for playing the high stakes football market. So I have the pick one in this draft, and when you're doing multiple teams, you have the option of kind of diversifying your team and stuff like that. And I have some drafts in the high stakes market. I don't know where I'm going to end up picking yet. I know I drafted the McCaffrey team, a slow draft in another event. Earlier, I have a pick one on Saturday, and I think the other event I'm going to take CeeDee Lamb. So in this case, I am going to go against the grain, and I'm going to take Breece Hall. And my good friend Eddie Gillis is pick two, and he's a diehard Dallas fan, and I know he's going to love this by me taking Hall. But we're going to see what happens here. I'm on the clock right now. There's 46 seconds to go on the draft on the draft for the timer. So I'm going to let it run down for a second, but I'm going to take him, and the goal is to see what kind of wide receivers they're going to run off in the next 3 rounds and see how I can build my team. There's not really any ADPs for this, so it's going to be a little different and a lot of decision making, but we'll see. So Breece Hall it is, and I think you can see the draft board. I'll show that, and I'll go back and forth and stuff like that. So the idea of Hall is, I really like their offense in that the Jets, last year they were supposed to be a lot better. You had Mike Williams. I know Aaron Rodgers is a lot older. I got Hall, hit 79 catches last year. I have him projected for 89. I think he's going to score more touchdowns, have a ton of catches. I kind of think of him as a better version of, not a better version of, or a higher scoring version of Le'Veon Bell when he was in his prime. It'll be to see interesting it shakes out. I don't like getting players off career years, and I know Hall kind of had a career year, but he's a young guy on the upside. Whereas like McCaffrey, had the injury risk tag for a couple of years. Got to San Francisco, was really great offense, and he busted out and was a great player, and he does it all. And realistically, their backup running back, they don't really have much there. They've had a couple of injuries. So there's not really somebody that's going to steal a lot from him unless the game is out of hand. They'll rotate somebody in. So McCaffrey's a solid choice. Lamb, obviously, he had that career year, almost 400 fantasy points. He held out a little bit and wanted a contract, but that wasn't really a major factor. He signed, but still, you're buying him at a peak. Same with Tyreek Hill, coming off a great season. We saw last year that Justin Jefferson was the number one pick overall in a lot of these drafts. And what ended up happening is, he was graded for 4 games and he got hurt and he ended up being a bust. So, this draft flow is pretty much straightforward. They're going to run a lot of receivers off early. There's those first 3 backs, and I think they're going to pound the wide receivers pretty heavy coming back to me. There'll be 2 or 3 backs coming down, but I'll have to make a decision on who I think is the best possible player. I don't really want to show the names here, whatever, but I have no choice. Just the way I'm going to jockey between the pages. And, there's some, well-known players that have had a lot of success in this. And there's some players that have had success that I don't know that well from just not being at the live events in the NFFC for a number of years. I've done them online and popped in for a 12-teamer and stuff, but I haven't been really locked in their core like I am with the baseball stuff. So, Wilson, 8th pick overall. Nothing. I would say the first 11 picks or so are pretty much standard. Maybe 14 picks or whatever. What's going to come off the board. I think the decision in any of these drafts is when you get down to the wide receiver. For me, is when the wide receiver. Look at Jamar Chase because he's holding out. He slid all the way to 11. But when you get to Harrison, and a lot of people will take the Atlanta wide receiver London. And I am not familiar with the flows of their ADP, so I probably should be paying attention a little bit better. But because each format has different ADPs. But after Harrison drops off the board at wide receiver, I think there's a lot of variance that could happen in different reasons to take different players. And that's kind of a struggle for me. I've done so many best balls, and I'm playing a different kind of game. I'm trying to get volume of players at each position and then have some, and hopefully beat some of these teams at the back end because I've done the projections up. That doesn't mean it's going to happen, because whenever you're doing fantasy football, you still have to play healthy and the players have to play well. So it's just gonna, like I said, it's going to be interesting to how it shakes out. So, pretty much, Gibbs, Barkley. So the back end guys in a 14-team league, they're going to they took the running back at 12 and 13, and they're going to see what kind of receiver they leave and that's get left to them in the next round. So 5 running backs, 7 wide receivers out of the gate. And I pretty much have to believe that another wide receiver would go here. Puka Nacua coming off a great season, a little banged up with a little knee issue. It looks like he's starting to return to practice this week. He should be taken on this turn unless this owner is trying to find a way. I can't. The running backs that are available: Etienne, A-Chain, Kyron Williams. I mean, there's no way he's taking a running back. He's going to go back-to-back wide receivers. I'm almost positive. They just the separation in the difference between the other running backs that will be there in the next round, because this is actually a 3 RR. You're going to draft the first 2 rounds, and the back end of the draft is going to get the first pick. So after he makes his first pick in the second round, he only has to wait 14 more picks to make his next pick. So it's kind of an offsetting penalty. You get a little bit of advantage. But what happens in these kind of things, especially in a 14-teamer, they can't defend all angles. So what ends up happening is that even on the 3-4 turn, there ends up being good players available, not necessarily at the position you want, but you could technically be, a quarterback would be there. So if you could get a top tier quarterback instead of a wide receiver or whatever other position, that could be very interesting. And we have a first-time caller calling in, and we're going to answer a question here that's going to be a little different. Hello.
Puka at 2-3 or Travis Kelce?
Puka at 2-3 or Travis Kelce?
Yeah. I already took Laporta though.
Yeah, I guess you have to go with a receiver there.
Puka or Cup? Puka I'm not sure about.
I would probably take Cup and gamble on there.
Okay.
All right.
I did. Bye. Thanks.
So that's kind of strange. We're getting a question on the outside about another draft and another format. The other format, tight ends get 1.5 points per catch. So the team at 14 end up going with Collins. Coming off a great year, a little more competition for targets this year with Dell back and Diggs added to the equation, and they got a pretty good tight end that will get some catches, and then you got Mixon on the offense. So followed up by Harrison and Devontae Adams. Yeah, I like that he went in the third pick in the second round, because a lot of those best ball drafts and the stuff that I was seeing for Underdog and DraftKings, he was really getting discounted, and he was, players like Drake London, a player with upside. You add Cousins there. He had 69 catches, 900 yards, but Adams has had 100 catches for a number of years. I know he's a little nicked up and got an issue, but he played well with backup quarterbacks. He played well with Carr. He played well with Rodgers. The quarterback played with Minshew. Minshew, not an all-star quarterback by any means, but Pittman caught 100 catches with him last year. So I think Adams is going to hold value, and maybe even if he goes back a little bit and 90 or so catches, what kind of player you get in there. But you get a little questionable tag, and then people decide to fade them a little bit. So the difficult part, I could say right now, I'm probably so I've got 9 more picks before I go, and I can see that there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. There's probably 7 or 8 receivers that have a chance to get run off before I get picked. Depending on the owners, Etienne, I would say Etienne makes it to me, and I don't want to double at running back. Somebody will probably bet, in a 14-teamer take Williams or A-Chain. Henry maybe. I don't think so. Pacheco takes a hit with P. Ryan. For me, he takes a hit. I need to update the projections. just that he's a pass catching back. He's 2-minute offense. He works pretty well. I think he's going to be a good fit for the offense. Kind of a gift because the backup running back situation, Kansas City, was in flux, and when you add somebody else in there, that's proven veteran, I think that's pretty good because Clyde Edwards-Helaire, had some struggles with off the field issues, hasn't really stepped up to be a stud, and he's kind of like a guy that you can't really trust. So Drake London went, DJ Moore, pretty standard. Pacheco went. So Garrett Wilson, Pacheco, Rozak is a longtime player here. He's up next, followed by Chad, who's he's the top player in the game. Is the biggest volume of action. Plays as many football teams as he possibly can, and he started with a running back, and he's going to come back with a receiver for sure. So I would imagine one of these next two take Cooper Kupp, based on his career body of work, and knowing that he's actually moved up in a lot of other drafts. And, it's surprising that he lasted as far as he did right now, because DJ Moore was going after him. And I would say even Adams was going after him, even though Adams, has probably been a little more dependable than Kupp the last couple of years. After his big year, he got hurt and then wasn't healthy. Wow. Malik Neighbors. That's an interesting pick for me because the Giants, I'm not sure they're going to throw the ball a ton. They have a good matchup week 1. I know this is a talented guy, but I don't put him on the class of like when Jamar Chase came in the league, even though he went to the same school. He had a connection with quarterback. Now you get a totally different offense. So Chad capitalizes and takes Cooper Kupp. I would take Cooper Kupp more proven over Neighbors, but it's all personal preference and seeing what's on the field. So that's a kind of an interesting dynamic. The league could have got one right there on that decision. I'm pretty sure Eddie Gillis in Team 2 is going to take a running back, but I'm not sure. So the Waddle's available, Pittman, Diggs, Evans, Deebo Samuel, Rashee Rice, and Devontae Smith. Pretty much I'm going to have a shot at one of those receivers. The tight ends are, I think they end up going in the 3rd round in this format. The running backs, I just don't want to bang another running back. I just, in a 14-team format, I think it's important to, kind of leave the RB2 position open, at least for a couple rounds. And you got to understand the drop-offs for each position. And I can't see, taking 2 right away. ETN went. So kind of, 4 teams went double wide receivers, and the other ones have, went back and forth. Nobody else has doubled at running back. So when it comes down to me, it's just I like Waddle. I think Pittman's a little more secure with the catches. And he adds that consistency factor if he made it. Diggs, great player. He's still going to get his command of catches, but now there's 3 people there. Deebo is he's kind of a gimmick player. Well, he is a gimmick player that, can make big plays, score touchdowns. The Ayuk situation does favor him a little bit. But, is he worthy of being a wide receiver 1 in the fantasy market, even though he scored, well last year? So at this point, I would hope that Pittman made it to me, but knowing Eddie Gillis, he might take him, but unless he doesn't want to go bare at running back, I guess, Kyren Williams might be in play for him. I've talked to him about some players, but, I don't know his, game plan, but I would think one of those 2. And if I'm stuck here, I'm probably going to gravitate towards Devontae Smith or Rice, and Rice isn't going to make it back, and it's kind of a gamble. So I liked it that Eddie took Henry. I'm going to just take Pittman. Don't like a running quarterback, but I do think that he, last year he had 8 catches in a lot of games. Doesn't score enough, but he does have, he's going to get you 13, 14 points and have some big games. But the best available athlete type of thing here, and not a difference maker, but a steady piece of the puzzle. So the draft now switches to the other end. So now when it comes back to me, I'm going to have 2 picks. So, so would I have rather at this point had Lamb, and what other running back would I have taken? Or, Lamb, Henry, Hall, Pittman. That's a kind of interesting dilemma. I think I would, based on those 2, I would think I I like my position better. If I took McCaffrey, maybe with Pittman, I guess they got them. I got them two rated pretty close together. So Devon Achane win the next round. Debo Samuel, Harrison, Debo, and Barkley. So pretty much people are trying to get, seems like it's going to be like, teams with one running back, two receivers for most of them. Because even in the back end, I don't, man, I guess, because I have two picks at the end back to back, I could take a running back if they made it. No quarterbacks have been taken, and that's kind of consistent with what the ADPs are. And there was no ADPs for this format. There was the 12 teamers, but it's just a different feel when you add those extra 4 picks at each end of the draft. It just changes the draft flow. A guy in the middle of the 4th round right now of this draft is really a 5th rounder. So you kind of, lose about a round every, 4 rounds, I would say, or something like that, 5 rounds. So Laporta, first tight end off the board, he's going to double with Detroit. That actually adds a little bit of consistency factor. I was really big fans of Gibbs early in the draft season, got that little hamstring injury. I would take him always like in that position where take him first and see what wide receiver makes it to me. I wouldn't never let him go and then try to, take a wide receiver first and see if he made it. I just felt more comfortable doing it in the reverse. And then Gibbs actually ended up sliding some. James Cook, talented running back. Got competition for touchdowns at the goal line because Josh Allen steals so many, and the Davis kid that came in there is going to be a bigger back, and he could be a factor. I think that's that's a tough for me to take him that early. I think there's other players that have a better overall opportunity. I can't say that they have more talent than Cook. It's just the way it shakes out. But the change in wide receiver structure, with Diggs gone and Kincaid going to be the top target most likely. It'll be interesting. Like where you're taking Williams, you think you're getting a lot of touchdowns. Really, the press out of the Rams have been really, really positive on him. He's not a big back, and he has got hurt a couple times. So, but the easy part with him is that you can most likely get his handcuff at a fair price. Where even if you got Cook's handcuff, I don't feel as confident that player will be a factor. So it's pretty interesting. It's just been like I thought this would be a little more hammered on the wide receivers, but it is, but I would love Rice to make it back to me on that turn. I don't think that will happen. I don't think he's going to get through that 2 to 7 area of the draft. Taylor, Diggs is the best listed top. Josh Jacobs has a pretty clean ride at running back because there's not really a lot of competition there. Rice just went. Just talked about him, so he's been the big mover. He was in the early draft season. He was getting drafted later because possible suspension. They seem like they're going to push it out till next year. There hasn't been any news, so people are more confident. He really kind of has that, to me, a DeAndre Hopkins type of feel of how he works the field. Needs to prove he can be a 100-catch guy or something like that. But he's the player in that offense that if Kelsey regresses, he's going to be rewarded. So I agree with moving him up. Love the teams that people get him as a wide receiver 3. But in a 12-teamer, you probably get away with a little bit better because even in the 4th, 5th round, you're going to get a running back. This format tends to be a little more wide receiver heavy. It's 6 points for passing touchdowns, so the quarterbacks are kind of important, especially when you have a decision between a quarterback and a tight end. If you have a mid-tier tight end and a top 4 or 5 quarterback, you have to take the quarterback in this situation. Kelsey to Rozak was a pretty strong team there with as long as Neighbors fans up, but two big pass catchers. Number 1 targets. Chad comes back with Metcalf. Another big player. So if it makes it back to me, I am in the 12-team formats, and especially in the best ball, I was trying at times to get Diggs and Dell together. In the back of my head, I think Collins would fade back a little bit, but pairing them potentially to get the stack, but that way I could get Stroud later on. I don't know if that will make it. I mean, one of the two should go before here. IU the not getting signed is going to be a issue. Nobody's taken a quarterback so far. I don't see them taking I guess McBride could go. In the running backs, Jacobs is worthy, White's worthy, Mixon's probably a next round pick. So Jacobs went next. So that leaves three more picks before me. So White's in play, the tight end's in play. Obviously, all the quarterbacks are there, and then so the Diggs, Dell, Flowers, people like them because of the catches. Should improve the second year in the offense, and so Diggs went. So that takes away the double stacking of of the Houston wide receivers on that turn for me. I will not take Ayuk on this pick. I'm okay with Flowers, but I don't love it. I think that the running back position with White compared to Mixon in Kenneth Walker, I think he's just will get more catches. He's more active. I'm not afraid of his the players behind him. I have him rated pretty high. I'm pretty confident that's he's mispriced in a lot of drafts. I'm not sure if Eddie would take him here, but there's definitely, to me, there's a drop off. I don't really have to worry about running back for a little while if I take him. Mahomes went, he's definitely going to be an edge, but the other two quarterbacks are still there. So that's a tricky situation. So I would say in a perfect world right now, I would probably accept Tank Dell with White, and I would take Dell over Flowers because I think he's more explosive. I like the offense better at passing. Might be a little more up and down, but he may emerge later in the season. So Ayuk went. So Eddie went for the guy that was on the sidelines for a week. So I'm going to take White because I have him rated pretty high and I trust his opportunity. And I am going to take Dell over Flowers because I'm going for a higher profile offense here. So after 4 picks, 2 running backs, 2 wide receivers, bye weeks, 2 on 14. So I got to pay attention to the 2 wide receivers on 14 and got to make sure I don't load up on too many of those. Probably could have taken a quarterback there, but what are you going to do? You just Hurts and Josh Allen. I like Hurts a little bit better than Allen this year. Allen, they just don't trust his other receivers. So Allen, and then the tight end position it's viable. But I got sitting in front of me, we got the Dallas guy. So I know that I think that the drop off at tight end position for me is Ferguson. And I actually like him better. I would take him over Ingram, over Kittle and Pitts. I think he might emerge as the second option in the passing game for Dallas. But I have a big Dallas guy sitting in front of me coming into me. This isn't being live streamed, so I have the advantage of that he not knowing what I'm thinking. So if he makes it to me on the 5-6 turn, I would be interested. And I most likely would push the quarterback back unless if Stroud made it back to me, I'd be interested. If it got down to that next range of the next 4, I would think I would pass. But I would have to think that the next 2 quarterbacks are going to go in the next couple of picks. Kincaid, McLaurin went, followed by Kincaid. This chose to go with a top tight end and a top quarterback for team 3. Kenneth Walker, another a nice steady solid running back. Has a little bit of competition for touches, but not really the floor like of White of catching passes. But he can have the advantage of scoring more touchdowns if Seattle plays a lot better than last year offensively. George Pickens is a big play receiver for Pittsburgh, really uncontested for the top targets on that team. As a wide receiver 3, it really makes a lot of sense. Getting Jacobs as a foundation back with 3 good receivers is pretty good. T. Higgins, we're betting that this guy, can stay healthy for the whole year, and he has the talent and the resume, and I believe he's going to be a free agent. And he won the new contract too, and he didn't get it done. So he would be he's a solid player, but he's what I was thinking I was most likely to do. You take elite RB1. And then you hopefully string together, especially in a 14-teamer, 3 or 4 good receivers together. You're going to eliminate decisions. And, the less decisions you have to make with wide receiver, the less mistakes you're going to have. And same thing when you get to obviously to the running backs. If you wait too long at the running back positions, the first 5 or 7 of these 8 running backs you're going to play every week. But when you get to that second tier and one guy does well one week and you didn't play him and you're playing matchups and it gets, it just leads to mistakes. And really the quarterbacks are just not going, they're just going to push them back, and there's no way they're making it back. But Amari Cooper was the player that was the best player last year. I believe in week 16, had 11 catches for 265 yards and 2 touchdowns. Really helped fantasy teams separate themselves in championship rounds. He was a scratch in week 17, which was probably okay, because if he gets scratched and doesn't play, then you have somebody to put in. He gave you the advantage. He played well in the game before. I think he had 100 yards. I didn't think he scored, but he had 5 or 6, 7 catches, something like that. So he was a player that typically, when he got to the championship rounds, he wasn't around for you. I like the upside of Wilson. I like Smith a lot this year. I'm not a Pacheco. I just think he runs hard. I think he has a little bit of injury risk. I'm not sure I would go after him. Kirk is going to be the wide receiver 1, followed by Chris Godwin, moved to the slot. That's going to be people are banking on his catches going up a little bit. He had 1,000 yards last year, but he only had a couple of touchdowns, and that's an area he needs to improve on. So Moore, Rice, Kirk with Taylor, another good structure of that foundation running back with 3 receivers. McBride, made it. I think he probably should have been drafted before Kincaid. In this case, he wasn't. Interesting. Now we got the second team that's going to go with edge at tight end and edge at quarterback. Zay Flowers made he slid to pick 56. That's pretty late. 55 actually. Was that 55? Yeah, pick 55. That's a long time for him. I guess if this guy makes it on the turn, takes a turn, if he takes a quarterback on the turn, the Flowers guy could always come back and take Lamar and get the hookup. Probably less important in this type of format than in the best ball, where you need those players to be tied together a little bit, because the winning score is so reflective on the last couple of weeks of matchups in 16 and 17. So Flowers, Debo, Harrison, Barkley, that's three teams, 3 running backs and 3 wide receivers. And let's see who the best. Alvin Kamara. He's just Kamara's another player that's just he's adds that consistency factor. He missed first 3 games last year. Came off after missing those games, and he had like this massive catch game, double-digit catches, and he had another couple of games later, 2 or 3 games later, and then later in the year they didn't use him the same. His biggest threat probably in scoring is Taysom Hill. So it's kind of like a disguise, because you think that he's the main guy at running back with no competition for touchdowns, but he really does have a quarterback that comes in and steals the plays and touchdowns. That hurts his upside. But Kamara didn't score that much last year. Hopefully the offense is a little bit better. I have him rated pretty good. Helpful that the Miller kid, Kendry Miller, is most likely I think he's on the IR. So it broke exactly. I always said Hurts and Lamar. I tied him with Flowers. I would be interesting. I don't think he could ever taken Lamar over Hurts, but so here we are. We're in the 5th round and pick. Where I think we're at pick 57, and then 4 quarterbacks. So especially for this being a 6 quarterback league, and in some of these quarterbacks, you get 300 yards and 3 touchdowns. I mean, that's 30-something points, and these guys can get 50 sometimes if they get 4 or 5 touchdown games. So if Stroud made it back to me all the way, which I don't think he will, but I have no reference point of ADPs. I know that in the other events, his ADP that I did, mostly his ADP was around 72. Sometimes he slid to 80, but that was more of a gimmick game. Deontay Johnson had a little issue. High volume catch guy for Pittsburgh, kind of faded last year. Going to Carolina, is he a better version of Thielen? I would take Jaden Reed over him, just like the last year Green Bay's wide receivers had 27 touchdowns. Johnson doesn't score enough touchdowns. In order for these guys to be impact players, they got to score touchdowns. But I think Reed, Ridley, those 2 players back to back. Johnson is a guy that for me would go later in most drafts. But Ridley, that team right there is set up pretty good with the 4 receivers. Now we're going to get to Odunze, rookie receiver with upside and explosiveness. But he's getting he got drafted in front of well, I'm sorry, I'm going to switch to him. Keenan Allen. I'm sorry, there's a little Keenan Allen, Miss Brassy with a foot issue. I didn't see that. So, but anyways, Keenan Allen, a long resume of success, runs good routes. He's going to be the receiver. You kind of like the structure of Chicago, rookie quarterback. We'll see what happens, but I don't think you can take a rookie quarterback, a rookie receiver over him. But the talent is there, and I do think he's going to be an explosive type player. I liked him a lot. I wish I could get him in a 12-teamer, maybe in the 8th or 9th round. I'd be more interested. I am betting against James Conner this year. If I'm taking James Conner, I'm getting Benson and hooking him up, but I'm betting against him this year. He had the most rushing yards of his career. He always misses 3 or 4 games. I do think he plays hard and runs the ball well, and he's a talent. But this is the NFL, and things happen. So right now the wide receiver position is pretty sketchy. Where this is where when you get to this part of the draft, and a lot of the drafts that I've done is that if you're looking at a quarterback or a tight end or something, I think you gain the advantage. I'm not in the Worthy camp. He's another young guy that gets drafted high. I get that Brown, Hollywood Brown or Marquise Brown is out and stuff like that, but I'm still not sure where he fits and what his opportunity will be. Rice is going to catch a lot of balls. I think Brown's better than him, overall and more experience. And then Kelsey's going to get passes. So Worthy, he could be a 40 or 50 catch guy. He has some explosiveness, but he's a 4th receiver. Obviously Chad knows what he's doing, and he watches a lot more college football and knows the talent pool. So Pitts comes back, pretty good player with change of quarterback there. With Cousins should help his value. They should throw the ball a lot more. Different offensive coordinator, different coaching staff. He's coming off an injury last year, and he really hasn't lived up to expectations. Somebody asked me, why do I have Anthony Richardson rated so low? And I'm like, well, what did he do? What did he do to warrant being a top 10 receiver quarterback? I know he runs the ball well, and he had a couple touchdown passes, but he's hurt twice last year, and then he really his completion rate was really low. He's like Fields area for touchdown passes. So is he going to throw 15, 18, 20 touchdown passes? I'm not sure. His floor is you're buying him based on his rushing ability. And I get that he looked good when he was on the field, but there is that risk factor for me. And I understand that you can draft another quarterback later on and cover him. So it's okay if you think he is the guy, and you do gain an edge. And not as much. You gain an edge because it's 0.5 yards per passing yard, and I think it's 0.10 for rushing yards compared to 0.4. So it's like a 2.5 to 1 compared to a 2 to 1 compared to like some of the daily game stuff. So, look at that. He couldn't resist Dak Prescott. So now that I'm gonna I probably should take Smith-Njigba, but because of where it is, and I know Eddie's next, and I'm gonna probably, if I let him take, his decision is now, do I have to play it against the guy where the tight end should make it to the next round? I think he goes in the 8th round in the 12-teamers. I'm definitely going to take Stroud for the hookup and take one quarterback here, and I'll take him first, and then get a little bit of time here, but. I'm not taking a running back. The wide receiver, Njigba, is there, but I know I'm getting an edge at quarterback. So I'm going to take him. And I think the tight end position, Andrews is a great player, got a little banged up. I'm not buying Evan Ingram off the 112 catches. I'll let him beat me. Kittle gets a ton of yards. He should, if Ayuk doesn't play, he's going to benefit. I think Ferguson, gets that second. He gets that, the second target. Sorry, he has a second opportunity if our target's in Dallas this year. I believe that, and he had 70 catches and he could improve. But is Najigba more consistent? Taking him over Allen, betting on that. I mean, this is an interesting decision here because I'm not taking McConkey. I'm going to bet on Allen and take the experience and see what happens. He's he'll hopefully get me out of the gate, and I went totally off the board there. A fading veteran, but hopefully kind of a discounted guy. But I changed my mind on the Ferguson side inside my head rather than doing it. Well, interesting that Eddie went with Mark Andrews, so that pretty much ensures that Ferguson might make it to me on the 7-8 turn, which would make me happy. I got the quarterback position out of the way. I got a hookup for one receiver. But these are tough decisions, especially when you're talking when you're doing it and not looking at it as close. But I've done 250 drafts, of these 12 team best balls, and I have 50 or 60 more to go or whatever. That most of them are almost done. But so Andrews, he's a fair value. He's a guy that would most likely fall in that range, definitely in front of Pitts, in potential. Now we're going to get into the Pollards. This is where when you're doing this, you're picking at a corner. It's kind of really an interesting opportunity in this year in drafts, because if I was interested in say Pollard and Spears, I can tie them together. I might be able to get Najee Harris or Warren together. I might be able to get Brian Robinson, Eckler. I could get Chase Brown and Moss together. I could get Chubb and Ford together. So it's these coin flip backs. Their ADPs are really close, but you can, like, where I already have two running backs, I can go and just say, all right, I don't love the Cincinnati Bengals backfield decision, and maybe I like Brown's upside, and Moss kind of surprised last year, but I can just get two, and that way I have two running backs, out of the gate. I can get a third running back situation where I can rotate in or play at flex. So that there's an interesting opportunity there. Stevenson, New England offense with a rookie quarterback. I don't know about the wide receivers. I mean, he's okay, and they got Gibson if you can handcuff him later. But I'm not going to go after him. I'm not Mostert. I'm going to let him go. If they Chan guy can, I'd rather have the third receiver there. Jonathan Brooks, he's going to be on the, exactly. I thought he's going to miss 3 or 4 games. He put him on the IR there. Warren slid because of the hamstring issue, and they didn't know if he was going to play in week 1, but I think he is. So if that combination made it back, I'd be interested. But I think that I am more in a situation where, I need to bang out another receiver. And going back to the draft, they ran off a couple more tight ends. So it looks like I probably, based on this, there's 2, 4, 6, there's 8 teams with a tight end. So after Ingram goes, there's only one more to me, it's kind of a drop off at the position. It's Ferguson, who's sitting there next. Njoku's okay too, but after that, I got beat at the position. But this is exactly what I'm talking about when I said I took Stroud over the tight end, because I know Stroud, I think, is going to be having an advantage. Is Ferguson better than Keenan Allen? I mean, Ferguson, it shouldn't be better than Andrews. I probably should have taken him, but Andrews, got a little banged up. He is kind of the top target there in Baltimore. I know Flowers is coming on there. So there's some of these decisions that you have to think about when you're building your teams here. And there's no, you're trying to get the right structure. You need to draft a break right. And then ultimately you need the players to play up to expectations and stay healthy. But right now, the wide receiver position, still is about the same. Like the guy that's going to jump up here out of all the ones, McConkey should be pretty good. Watson has, explosive talent. It's just he has that injury tag, so people are kind of fade him. But when he's your wide receiver 4, especially in a 14-team format, you can gamble that. You can even take him and treat him as a running back and get the Wicks the other wide receiver from Green Bay and get some coverage so you can protect yourself there. Hopkins coming off an injury. Didn't think he would be ready for week 1, but they say he's a go. But who knows how healthy he is? Ferguson was picked there after Stevenson. Sutton, older guy, scored 10 touchdowns last year. Rookie quarterback. I think he's okay, but he could break down. Jameson Williams, he got a bump up for me. My last updates. He kind of be an explosive player. I think he's going to be a little player that's going to be tough to time a little bit. Addison, if McCarthy was there, I'd be a little more excited, but he had a little injury in the preseason. He should be fine. He's the opposite side of Jefferson. I guess we're going to in Darnold with trust. Keenan Coleman by default, because he's going to get the wide receiver 1 in Buffalo, and he does have some size. People are betting on him. I would prefer to have Thomas. I think that the reports have been pretty good, and the structure might be a little better for me. So, and even Marquise Brown is getting discounted because of the because he's going to miss time, but I think he'll be fine. So I'd be more in that range where, in that Brian Thomas, Marquise Brown area. If Addison slid, I'm not going to take Keenan Coleman. I'm going to let him beat me, but that's a personal decision. That Smith-Jigner went. I would have taken him in front of Johnson. There's 3 wide receivers that are competing for targets in Seattle, so that's kind of a challenging. Najee Harris drafted in front of Warren. That wasn't happening earlier, but maybe it's on a short turn. I can't see this team doubling up at running back there and taking to where he only has one wide receiver. So another team with 4 wide receivers. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 teams at the end of 6 rounds have 4 wide receivers, and that's I think ultimately in this format you want to play a wide receiver at the flex. It's just a stronger position overall, especially when the player pool is going to get beaten down. And typically in these 14 teamers, you're going to have one hole in your lineup where, and I consider hole a weaker player. And ideally, the people that wait at RB2, they hope to fix that player, like Chad, the way Chad did it with he take Ingram, he's waiting on a quarterback, but he's probably going to wait from the RB2. He'll probably take like 4 in a row and see if he can find hit on that player later on in the year. It kind of makes his team. He won't probably if one of the quarterbacks slid that was good, made it to him, he might have taken that too. But he doesn't, because he does so many drafts, he doesn't have to move players up. He's going to get players that fall, and he's going to diversify his team. So it's not like he's going to draft them all the same. So it doesn't really even if you're seeing a player like that draft, his decisions tomorrow are totally different. He could start with St. Brown and somebody else and running back. So, by mixing it up, but ultimately he's going to probably fade the running back position, take advantage of quarterback or tight end if they fall. And if there is a player that slides that isn't supposed to be there, he will take that. So back to running back. So we got Mostert. So would the A-Chain team already pick? He did. So he passed on the handcuff, took Addison. So the next one, Chase Brown, went for the upside. This is where those tight turns where you could have double banged that. So where I'm in a position where I need to get most likely a tight end and another wide receiver, but the only tight end I would probably take is Njoku. I think that the addition of Dotson from Washington to Philly hurts the tight end a little bit. Go there, and then Bowers is a little banged up. You got Hawkinson is a buy and hold. Schultz, he fits with my, having the quarterback, but he goes a lot later. Freiermuth should be the number 2 option, and then after that, you kind of just you're going to play the tight end flavor. So this is where, like in best ball events, I would just pick 3 and pair them together, and kind of hopefully get the right structure with one good one up front. In this case, if I have 3 that are both the same, I have to make a decision who I'm going to play, and that's going to lead to mistakes. So wide receiver, going back there, So I can't imagine. We got 6 more picks. I would love for the Thomas guy to make it. If he didn't, I would take Marquise Brown, just a piece of the Kansas City offense. But it's just there's a lot of teams that 2, 4, 6, 7, 8 more picks before me. Yeah, but some of these teams need running backs in the running back inventory. Spears, yeah. So Eckler's kind of gives you that guy that you can rotate in, get some catches. Not as much. Washington isn't going to throw nearly what they did. The Chargers did when they're in their prime. Totally different offense. Samir White just went. He's just a kind of an early down back. Could score touchdowns. He's going to be have those 20 carries for 80 yards and not score. Kind of be a dull showing. Doesn't get a lot of catches. I think he's a decent talent, and most likely rotate. And then Mostart, got rotated in now, so it'll be interesting the next 2 picks here. Rozak, when Kyler Murray, 2 are, yeah. So when does so this is now this is where I'm not like, because when I'm looking at these ADPs of the order of the players, they're almost the same. I'm seeing the same names that I was seeing at Underdog and DraftKings. But they most obviously they were different rounds, because I would see some of those names later, because some teams would take 2 quarterbacks earlier. They would just load up on the wide receivers, because they don't have to necessarily pick their lineup. So, and I'm talking about the best ball stuff when I'm really kind of trying to do one of these main events that I'm trying to have the best team and compete where I put in the best lineup. So, Cortland Sutton, talked about him a little bit earlier, 10 touchdowns last year. A guy that really thought he would be a better player at this point of his career overall, but for whatever reason he didn't get there. Some injuries, and he had 1,000 yards early on, but he's got size and he could work out. But the other 2 young kids, Mims and Franklin, have a chance to be involved this year as well for them, and they're kind of sneaky. And I've drafted both of them a lot, and late in drafts, figuring one of the 2 would hopefully do something, and we'll see how the season goes for the young rookie quarterback there. So 14 seconds here. So quarterback, we're at Burrow. So that is a drop off for Burrow. I mean, I think that, yeah. So he went for the Thomas, who I was, like I said, but now he's drafting Thomas. I would trade Thomas over Worthy, but now he's got 5 good receivers, going to cover bye weeks pretty well. Still waiting on running back. And now he looks at the board right now. He's got Love, Richardson, Mahomes, Prescott, Stroud. And what does he think? I'm going to take Thomas, and they're just going to give me Burrow on the next pick. Nobody's going to double up in the 7th or 8th round in this type of format and take another quarterback. So you can mark that down. He's kind of got the gift, and this is what, doing a lot of drafts and having a good feel for draft flow, you can kind of take advantage of this stuff. Reading the board, you got to pay attention. These teams in the middle, 8 to 11, they don't have any quarterback. So, they're going to, coming back once Burrow goes, it'll most likely, they'll pick and choose, depending on what the receivers are, and kind of take one there. So I'm going to shift back into the wide receiver position. So Marquise Brown went, so that was a player of interest. So running back, Spears, kind of an this is where, if I want to double at running back and get one more position here, and I need to but I need a wide receiver to make it back to me. And but tight end, Njoku's there. So the decision, I guess, right now would be, do I take, say, an Eckler, who I can rotate in and get some points, might have a little better consistency factor than Ford. Brian Robinson's, early down runner, but the quarterback's going to run a lot, steal some touchdowns. Spears is a pretty talented guy in a split. I do like Benson a lot as upside. So he took Spears. So now that, to me, Njoku is a definitely the drop off at tight end. I don't get beat at the position right there. I'm gonna have to hold on 1 second here. I'm gonna take Njoku, and I'm gonna come back with the wide receiver position isn't where I want it to be. So I am going to 128. I just know that they're not gonna. I kind of have to shoot for upside here. Unfortunately, I can't see. I'm not going to take Robinson. Eckler just kind of helps, but it's not explosive. I can't get Chubb and Ford together. Their ADP is at 120, so I mean, my next pick is going to be 128 or something. I think Benson's the player I like the most, but I could buy an all. I mean, this is interesting. And the wide receivers are just not in a range that I'm interested in. You know what? I'm going to just take Eckler to play it safe and get some points, knowing that I can rotate a guy and see what happens because he gets some catches. I'm gonna take another phone call here. You can listen to the question, and we'll see. I could be too late for this.
Say what?
Too late for this?
Yes. Did you see my text?
No, I'm doing this draft, and then I'm actually talking about it too. So.
Oh, I'm sorry. I forgot you were doing that.
No, it's all right. You're part of the show right now, so you can ask me the question.
I was just going to tell you bad news. Emil died.
Oh my God! I'm sorry to hear that.
The godfather of fantasy football, man.
Oh my God, that's sad.
I know. Scott just texted me.
Oh my God.
But actually, I was going to ask you between Ramondre Stevenson, and then I looked at his bye week, and it was 14. I'm like, no, I can't draft him. Yeah, and Chase Brown, but I have a lot of Chase Brown, so I'm going with Tajay Spears. So.
All right.
But yeah, he passed. So.
Oh, sorry to hear that.
I know, and it's awful. He was a good dude.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think the last time I talked to him was like April, May. I had emailed him and I hadn't heard back from him. I guess I didn't have Maria's number. So.
All right.
Okay. Well, you carry on. How's your team looking?
We'll see. I'll talk to you a little bit later.
Okay. All right.
Bye. All right. We're back to the live action. Blake Corum went for, after Eckler, Keenan Coleman. So this is where, I think this is where you kind of like make or break teams from rounds 8 to 12. Do you get the depth that you need to have push you over the top? It'll be interesting to see. We'll get back to this. Now, will team 6 take Burrow like I predicted before? Singletary. Look at that. You can take Burrow or Singletary. I mean, you're getting a quarterback with good receivers. He already has Higgins, and where the other team before you is taking a mediocre running back, is an RB1, and exactly what happened. So, this draft, is broke really well for him. So the structure is really good. Got a lead running back, and he still hasn't. Keep your head down and keep grinding away, and don't deviate. And now you're going to kind of, you can see your 8 from 9 to 12 or whatever, and be pounding the backup running backs. I really like the Benson selection. Would have been the upside swing. If this was an overall, it would probably be more important. This is a standalone league. It's not as important. And he did handcuff Connor and Benson, which, like I mentioned earlier, that I definitely would do that if possible. But I couldn't take the 2 running backs back to back there just because the tight end position. I think that Njoku was pretty good last year and the last couple of years, so I think that gives me advantage. Everybody else is kind of I'd be coin flipping and making mistakes where I feel like I can put somebody in my lineup every week. Bowers went from the Raiders. I don't really think that he's going to miss week 1 and have some issues. And the other tight end for the Raiders, Mayer from the year before, is going to be a little more factor out of the gate, but we'll see. Ford went. So this is really a lot of these running back situations are broken, where people were unable to pair them together. I mean, the Benson Connor thing. So, he's got two backfields. But we'll see, what happens next. So here we are. Let's see where we're at. So Nick Chubb's still there. Imagine he goes. And then after him, the running backs are really that back end. And the most people would be gravitating at this point. They're looking for Jaleel McLaughlin went last, but they're looking for Jared Wright. And the team that has A-Chain should take him on this turn. If you have Aaron Jones, Chandler, and if you have the other running back from Brooks, you should be looking at potentially protecting him with Hubbard if you need to. Let's see, there's other running backs. The San Diego situation is kind of a coin toss. There's really Elliott gets banged a little bit because when they signed Cook, but Cook won't be there right away. The wide receiver position is decent still. Now this is for key for me is that I really need to come out of this next turn where these teams 8 through 11, kind of land their quarterback. But if team 11 goes and takes one, then maybe 10, and they'll kind of, don't want to be the last guy. If they all pass, if it makes it to team 8, he figures there's nobody that's going to be behind him. Nobody, going down towards me, that nobody's going to take a second quarterback at this situation. If he waits, he would without a doubt, he couldn't make it another turn after that. They definitely have to take the thing. So there you go, team 13. He kind of finessed the Chase Brown Moss combination with Barkley, so that was pretty good. He got a pairing together that kind of a handcuff in a 14 team format. There's 32 offenses, and there's only each one of these 14 teams is looking for 2 backfields. So if you get 3, you did really well, and maybe have somebody playing for you. But that's why some of these teams, when they're playing that wide receiver at the flex, and they're okay with 2. So team 6, no second running back. Probably, I would say, and without knowing in its new information, is that he would probably be looking for like the Pirine guy to add to his roster, because of Kansas City's, behind Pacheco, the Edwards-Helaire isn't a stable person, and the other guy's a pass catcher. So when you're looking for that punt RB2, you're looking for that pass catcher type, and then he's going to fall into that situation. I'm not saying that he's going to, that somebody would be looking for that. Nick Chubb just went at the end of the draft, so that team has 4 running backs, 3 receivers. He's upside of Chubb, and I think Chubb. If I had a decision between Jonathan Brooks and Chubb, I'm taking Chubb because I think he's a little more proven. I think he's worked pretty hard. Where Carolina, we don't know, how that whole offense shakes out. I think Cleveland's offense will be okay, but yeah. So Curtis Samuel. So here we go. Well, this is really kind of a break point for what I need to happen here. Where will they take a wide receiver? Is Cousins, Purdy, Goff, Tua, Caleb Williams. Oh, there you go. So the first quarterback, he pulled the trigger and took Jaden Daniels, a running quarterback, and a lot of people are like him a lot because he can run. And by taking him, you always have the opportunity to grab that second quarterback behind him. And I think that teams almost like, even if you thought another quarterback was ranked a little higher, you can kind of reverse it. So I can imagine Caleb Williams, he might go to team 9 because he got DJ Moore. This team right here has got AJ Brown. No, he's going to go for another receiver, so he's going to wait. So the next one's going to have to make a decision. Do you want to get a hookup? Do you want Moore? Do you want Purdy? And then the next team after that. So St. Brown's over at 7. So that's, and I don't think Cousins and Goff are going to think so. I think Williams or Purdy are the only 2 that are kind of somebody would go after. And Purdy doesn't throw the ball enough where you're going to kind of like get you really excited, but he makes big plays. They score touchdowns, and he's still ranked, in the top 8 quarterbacks. And if he ever threw the ball like 4 or 5 times more, he could be even better. Ayuk re-signing or getting that deal done would be, would be helpful. But I think that, Lamb signed first, Chase would be next, and then Ayuk would be last. So Purdy went to the next team. So I think it's just a trickle. They don't want these receivers to sign in the wrong order because, you want to see what the top guy got for money. So I would imagine Chase gets done pretty soon. He should get an extension. These guys that are great receivers can last for 10 years or so. And, I don't know why they, kind of dick them around a little bit. So anyways, here we are at the, let's see. Yeah. So, so he doesn't have to take a quarterback here. He could wait and see what probably could take another receiver, I guess. Yeah. This is where the, there's top receivers. I mean, the kind of people looking at them. To me, there's, Myers is a player of interest for sure. Lockett, in that 3-way mix. The other guy took Caleb Williams. So 3 out of those 4 players took quarterbacks. So that was pretty good. So now we need probably get a receiver out of 7. Probably first flyer at the RB2 at team 6. So now we're going to have, get down to the next, 4 picks behind me, and they're going to pick on the wide receiver column. I don't know who they are going to take, but it'll be interesting to see. So Wicks got drafted, so that's so that makes sense that he did really well last year, has upside. So here we go. What's going to be this RB2 here? He's going to take Hubbard. Most likely probably grab Sanders later on. But now what does Hubbard do for him? He gets a running back to get him out of the gate. He's going to be a starter at the beginning of the season, and buys him maybe 2 or 3 weeks, 4 weeks until Brooks comes back. If he can handcuff him with Sanders in case Sanders backdoors him. Jacoby Myers went. There's 3 more picks 2 more picks. Oh, Jerry Jeudy. I won't say it because there's some weird world of that these players, when you mention their names out loud, people draft them right when you're suing. So I am probably, let's see, like running back, Jalen Wright, I'm sorry. He has upside. I mean, Charbonneau, Dobbins, I mean, yeah, it's, what will team? Yeah, I definitely have to go wide receiver, but I know what receiver I want. But let's see here. 11 seconds. He's coin tossing. Oh, he caved on the Dallas running back. Oh, I'm going to take Mike Williams. He's just a clear cut. I have drafted, I'm going to tell you right now that I drafted the first 100 teams at Underdog. I have Aaron Rodgers on 75% of my teams, and I have Mike Williams on 75% of the teams. And it's, a long story why, but I think that Rodgers I can trust at the back end of a best ball format that he's going to keep a job, and I think Williams is mispriced, and he has scoring ability and big plays. He hasn't been on the field, so he's kind of discounted. So I am going to take him for sure as the first player. Now I'm going to see, do I need another wide receiver? That's team 12. If I want upside at running back, I mean, you never can have enough running back thing. And the right guy looks pretty good. The tight end position, Hawkinson, gives me another certain player, but I'm gonna have to sit on him for a while. The wide receiver positions aren't that strong. Quarterback is, we're we got quite a range here where there's similar type players and not really an advantage, and that one person is going to be able to fit that. So I think just based on potential upside and both running backs there, I'm going to take the right guy. He's just might be the wrong guy, but I'd take right. So not ideal for what I wanted but in a 12-teamer, I would have got a much better choice there. But I do have an upside there. And the other alternative, I could have tried to handcuff Rashard White with Bucky Irving and or Hall. The Hall one is kind of tricky because they're the handcuff is not clear as everybody thinks. I think it could be be a float there, and I don't see a lot of opportunity, so I'm not willing to commit an early draft pick for there. So, but so back to the draft board. So Myers went, then Judy, Dowdle. So it's really messy in Dallas. The running back situation between Elliott. They brought in Dalvin Cook. You got Dowdle there as an option, and they got Deuce Vaughn, who nobody wants in. If he ever hit in, especially in the best ball formats, then he would be kind of a difference maker. But we'll see how that what happens there. Interesting that he could have, when you got Henry, you could handcuff him. So he's kind of his RB2 isn't really that strong. Patriots wide receiver Jalen Polk. I'm not sure. I'm neutral on him, and I don't. All the receivers in New England, I just don't have a clear idea of who I think is the best one. But there is definitely he's the one that's probably has the most upside out of the gate. So Dobbins, if you're going to take Dobbins, he goes really late. Nobody knows really when he goes. Without a doubt, I'm going to try to handcuff him with the Kamani. Where did he go? Oh, the Vidal guy. I would handcuff him for sure. I would just to protect yourself. I think that's kind of messy, that whole situation. I think they'll run the ball. Gus Edwards. Either one of those. I guess you're going to have to take the other running back there. We're going to go with so really, if he's looking for another running back, you might have to take Elliott or Gibson here. If there's not really the ideal upside RB2. Taylor doesn't have an undefined one. Montgomery's, obviously for Gibbs, the Barkley handcuff is a lot later. McCaffrey's, that's kind of a gamble. So he's really kind of stumped here which one he's going to have to do. He's going to have to reach here. So he got a little weaker than you think than a 12, like I said, a 12 teamer, especially when you're chasing running back. So he just ended up taking the Seattle handcuff, which he's a decent player with a pass catching ability. But, that running back position right now, Gibson's one of those guys that'll give you some points. Elliott most likely has a job out of the gate, but people don't trust him. If he makes it back to team 2, he was going to take him no matter what. Actually, when you have, Robinson, Algier should have been an important person there. I might have protected right there because he's not going to make it back to him, and that might end up being a mistake if he had an injury. I think you could get away with playing both of them at times. We'll see how his usage is, but so yeah, still, but the other part of his lineup looks really good. Let's see here. Come back with Arizona. Man, we're just getting. We got the quarterback, you got 2 running backs, and we got Wilson. So we got 4 players from Arizona, and we got any other players, and we got Neighbors is by week 11. So he's got 2, 4, 6, 10 players. Half of his players are on by week 11. Maybe I get to play him that week. But so coming back here, Team 10 is going to, obviously, he can't pass on a quarterback the next 2 turns. He has to get one because at some point the talent pool is going to dry up here, and you can take a player here or there, but quarterbacks get hurt, and you just rather have some sort of insurance there. So but Brandon Cooks scored 8 touchdowns last year, underperformed in yards. I think that he is a player he's got a little issue going into the last couple of weeks. Missed a couple times, I think, for a couple of days with a personal issue. I think I think his resume says he should be better, but I actually think Tolbert is a guy that might emerge there. And I'll probably, if Eddie was hearing this, he probably would take him, but I'm going to take him on that 11-12 turn unless he takes him before me. I'm not sure where he ranks in this. There goes Irving. And so, do I take the handcuff with Irving, instead of Jalen Wright? I think Wright looks a little more explosive. We got an older running back with Mostert coming off a career year in the A-chain, talented guy. But if he had an issue, So Wright has like upside by Irving. White, I don't know. Hawkinson, sit and wait. You got Laporta up front. Really good buying power there. Gibson's kind of guy that can chip in, fill that RB2 role for this team with Brooks being out. He can rotate between those two players. Fryermuth in number 2 tight end and for number 2 target in Pittsburgh based on their structure. The tight end position now it's Schultz, likely has upside. See, now some formats have Hill still listed as quarterback, and this in the NFFC he's listed as a tight end. So that's kind of gives him playable value. He won't get drafted at all in that other format. He missed a lot of times in August. They think they're going to be ready for week 1, but we'll see what happens on there. I'm in the A.T. Perry camp as the player that could emerge there. He's got a lot of size, big playability, playing on the outside. So all right. So they're doubling up on the tight ends, not really going after the quarterback. So here we go. So I don't know. This is what are we, an hour and 10 minutes in here? I guess I'll get you through the backup quarterbacks and see where we're at there, and then I'll kind of bail out. Marshawn Lloyd, he's placed on the injured reserve. He's going to miss 4 games. He's probably the clear-cut handcuff, unless the guy Watson steps up for Green Bay. But that's the situation behind Jacobs is kind of shaky. So Jacobs is an even better play than he did look, even a month ago. Dillon is out for the season. Lloyd's banged up, and the other option is kind of another big back. So Jacobs is got a pretty good high volume opportunity there, and he should be moving up, probably in front of James Cook. He's more proven than A-Chain. Thielen started off really well last year. Had a lot of catches, kind of faded at the end of the year. With the addition of Johnson, he doesn't have this great of an opportunity, but he still will get some catches. Works as close to the line of scrimmage now, only like 10 yards per catch, not a lot of touchdowns. Luke McCaffrey, drafted him a lot early. The trade in Washington, sending their Dotson to Philadelphia, should help him, but I think he's more of a late season player. Tyson Hill went next, so his first tight end. So he took a tight end. So now this guy, he's gambling right here. He's saying, all right, I'm going to wait, and they're going to give me another quarterback. There's enough there. So you can't snipe him, but in a 14-team format, I mean, I would say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I would say there's 8 quarterbacks that are okay. But out of those 8, Heber's got questionable receivers. He's new offense. He had the plantar fasciitis, so he doesn't seem like the same player. Goff is kind of a balanced offense. Cousins has some weapons, but are they at the same level as they were for in Minnesota? I don't think so. Tua's got the top 2 receivers that get drafted early, so he should go. I really like Lawrence too. I think that he's got some talent around him. So I would say that Lawrence is intriguing to me for sure because he runs a little bit more. But I think Rodgers is kind of a value too. But I don't know what like I said, with 8 quarterbacks, I mean, you're going to end up, at this position, the most valuable player on the board that can get you 20 points a game is a quarterback. So there's, plenty of those. And if you don't mind playing that rotational, option, then that's what you're up against there. So, but, right now we're, 3 more picks after team 10 and nobody took a backup quarterback. So we'll see what happens there. Let's see here. I got to think about it. So Jordan Mason went to. So now this is where you just pick on the top running backs. Hope one of them gets hurt. Mitchell, I didn't have him rated high early out of the gate. Downs got a little banged up. I'm not sure what to make of him, but I think he does have upside. It just this. Wow, where's this guy? See, this is where the draft flows are a lot different than the ADPs. Mims is a pretty good value, I think. I think he might emerge as a goes on. I think, Tolbert is the player with the most upside. He should be drafted. When you're looking at this queue, he should be drafted in front of all these. I mean, the Pearsall guy has a lot of upside. Gabe Davis is up and down. I don't really want to go there. The running back position is, what have I got? 4, 5 more running backs. So there was a quarterback when, so he let Algier go again. So you don't get your handcuff. And that's kind of interesting. I don't know if somebody will take him in front of it. Miller's out. These other running backs. So Algier kind of stands out as the player. The running back position, you don't really have to go for a quarterback. Tight end, likely with upside. I'm kind of stuck at that. There's not really much. I mean, if team two should actually try to go with, you could back up Andrews and take Likely right here. That would give him a handcuff of a high profile. Likely it's got some pretty good press and spring training. But unfortunately, I know who I would take normally. I would probably take Tolbert in this area, but because of the draft flow and what's going on, I don't think I have to be the guy that at least blocks with Algier. And I think that I got to take Likely because he has the most upside at tight end. And then I'm going to hope that Tolbert makes it back to me and most likely take a quarterback next term. That's what I would try to do, but we'll see what happens. So only one. So we're in the 11th round on 14-team league, and backup quarterbacks are not relevant right now. So, So like the Douglas guy by Eddie, he's kind of a guy that's not going to score. I think he'll get the catches. I mean, maybe put him in the bye week, but I don't know if he's. I think I would have rather had Likely over him. He might be cursing me right now because they took him, and he was probably thinking I wouldn't have taken him, but based on what's left at tight end, he was the player that if Andrews had an injury, he would be, a top 5, 6, 7 tight end, where the rest of these are kind of coin flip plays. And sure, I need another one most likely to play, but I might be able to find somebody by a week. So there's the second quarterback to get drafted as a backup, Tua. And we got Gabe Davis, and we're just darting it out at wide receiver for team 3. We go Marquise Brown, Keenan Coleman, Jerry Jeudy, Polk, Quentin Johnson, Davis. So then, now this is a perfect example of a team that's going to have decisions. So, McCaffrey, Waddle, Mahomes, Kincaid, Montgomery, most likely Pollard are going to be in. So those other 2 wide receiver spots, I think Marquise Brown, when he's there, he's going to be most likely be the player. And then Coleman, he hopes to. But if those players aren't there, you'll be coin flipping some of those, and that will lead to mistakes. So I guess if he had one other more defined player, and if he was rotating through one spot, but is Pollard strong enough to be a flex position player in a split role at running back? In a 14-teamer, I would say probably. In a 12-teamer, that might be giving up a little bit to the field, but I think you need to average about 11 points in the PPR format to be an advantage, or be par probably at the flex position. If you can beat that number, you're okay. Deutsch is a kind of a smaller possession type of guy, but yeah. So this is I don't know, doing this on the fly with no game plan. Going against the grain, not taking McCaffrey, taking Hall, letting my Rhode Island friend have his CD Lamb after a career year, see how he drafts. There we go. We got Lawrence, next one off the board. So that's 3. So we got 5 more quarterbacks that are viable. I would imagine that they don't make it back to me, but at least I have Stroud, who I think I am playing every week, which is fine. So We got Cousins. Yeah, we got five more, and then after that, it's kind of like a coin flips. There you go. There's the reverse. He's mad at me for taking Algier. He wanted to get him, and he's going to take the Breland Allen to get Hall, but I'm not convinced he's the backup. But that's what that's what you're trying to do here is wait for a top running back to get hurt, and if the backup gets a job, then you kind of have potentially a difference maker to fill your RB2 role, and just we'll see what happens. So but that's how he's the best player in the game as far as winnings and stuff like that, and and it's not like he takes the same players every time. He wins with multiple different players and different strategies and stuff like that. It does really well on the waiver wire, so there's more to it than just doing it. And he's going to get a share of injuries, but he's also going to have a diversified portfolio. And the goal for him is to win an overall. In this case, in a 14-teamer, we're at 16,000. This is kind of a really good league for him to kind of help build his bankroll too. So now we got Cousins. Now, Team 10, you taking a quarterback, or are you gonna let it ride? Tracy, a couple, the running back, the backup running back. So Stafford he placed his bet on Stafford, and then so this is where I'll run down the positions here. So the quarterback, Herbert, Watson, Rodgers. Rodgers is a steal where he goes. I don't think at running back, Miller's hurt. Herbert's not a bad handcuff. He's going to get somewhere on the field. Johnson went in front of him in this draft. He just went there. Oh no, the quarterback Herbert went. Sorry. Bigsby is a handcuff. Justin Hill, will get some. Maybe he makes it back to team 2 to back up Henry. He'll get on the field somewhat. Madison, get on the field for the Raiders. A handcuff. Foreman got cut. Mitchell's on the IR. Pierce is kind of a handcuff. Gainwell, I think he got passed by Shipley. I would rather have Shipley. Dillon out for the season. Mitchell's on the thing. P. Ryan is a guy. I would think that this guy is, like I said, I mentioned him earlier. I bet this is where he lands to team 6 on the next pick. I mean, reading the situations for the running backs. I mean, pass catching back. Yeah. So Kendry Miller. All right. So Kendry Miller, talent back, just can't stay healthy, but somewhat of a handcuff. But I would, you have to take the Williams. I think Williams, I would prefer to have him for Jamal Williams in New Orleans at this point, because he's going to be the backup out of the gate, and he's coming off a down year. But Miller, needs to stay healthy. Herbert gives him some playable stats, but he's got 3 running backs. He's got 1 handcuff. Chubb has upside, but he structured himself where he's got a lot of running backs, but he's not going to be able to get them all in either. Well, actually, you know what? Herbert's backs up Swift, so he backed up 2 of his running backs. Okay, he did well there. I like that. But he's got 4 running back situations potentially, but 3. So he's got 3 covered. 2 good receivers up front. Addison, you got a top quarterback. Got the quarterback with his hookup. Schultz is a decent second tight end. Interesting. Pearsall went 2 young guys back to back for him, and Lloyd. So if he's 3 picks in a row, if we kind of, and Dalvin Cook, there you go. He's Cook. We'll see. We saw a draft sheet on Twitter today, was sitting on 94. He was in 700 best ball drafts, and he was up in 94 and wait for the news, and he got Dalvin Cook. He was thinking he won the $1.5 million, but I'm not sure that Dalvin Cook, he's been around, he's a good player. Maybe, is he better than Elliott? Maybe, but we'll see. So the quarterbacks really didn't go to the turn. We're still McMillan. Let's see. Well, there's still good options here for what I want to do. I'm not sure, I'm not like I said, in the realm of all these other drafts, so I don't know thing. So I want to see in the next 2 picks. And this is an interesting timing. So we're around 13. Kickers and defenses. Somebody usually pops a defense relatively early or take the kickers, but kind of not. In past years, I had like a kicker I wanted or a defense because I don't like rotating them in. But this year I'm kind of open to see what happens. And last year I was fortunate enough to grab the Dallas kicker right away. I could see that he was going to be really good. I got him in a lot of teams, and he had a great year. And he ended up being like a kind of a difference maker off the waiver wire. I think I got him in. I think I had the Jets kicker, but when Rodgers got hurt and the Jets kicker got 3 field goals, and then I picked him up because I had to, with Rodgers out, I didn't think the team was going to score anymore. So that just changed the whole dynamic there. Yeah, so he went Bigsby, another just pick on the top running back. This isn't rocket science here, folks. If you follow enough of these drafts, you can see what people are doing. Mims went, so he was a wide receiver of interest for me, for sure. But I have it. Oh, so they took. Oh, what happened here? Oh, I hate it when the thing is not. So right now, that the quarterback position, I mean, hands down, this is where I'm doing the best ball things. Watson, didn't do anything. He missed a year, hasn't done anything in a number of years. Could he be better than Aaron Rodgers? Maybe. He runs a little bit. But Rodgers has a running back that catches a lot of balls first round. He has a wide receiver in the first round. His third Williams has been shown the ability to score. It has size and make big plays. Coming off an injury, the tight end will do a little bit. He's got a Lazard that's played with him. He's got a young gadget type of wide receiver. So Rodgers is going to pick apart some of these other receivers. And when you look at the rest of the receivers behind him, especially in the best ball format, he's by far the best quarterback. I mean, it's like he died. You know what I mean? Like nobody wants him. Like I don't get it. But I am not going to let in the 12-team format. I mean, 14-team format. I won't. I mean, Eddie obviously took him. I'm gonna take him here, and I should realistically I should take a wide receiver because I only have 4 of them, so I'm kind of relatively weak. But he took P. Ryan, which that's what I would have taken more as a block. But because he did that, he actually helped me because now I can just take Rodgers, and I can come back and take his Dallas receiver that he wanted. Anyways, but I needed the receiver more than a running back. I mean, I needed another running back for sure, but P. Ryan is more of a block for Team 6 in my opinion. When you're cheating the running back position, he would have been out. Good timing, excellent timing on Eddie's part because I would have taken him on that turn. I would have passed on Tolbert, who he probably would have been at somewhat of an interest. I think he looked good last year in times and flash. And if Cook has any issues, I think he can just really emerge. And I think he's kind of a talented player. I didn't draft him a lot in the best ball stuff early, but I still in the last 50 or 60, I probably got him a lot just to in that he goes in a range where I think he has the potential to go to a higher level. Cowboys defense. So there we go. Now we got the kicker and the kickers and the defenses. All right. So now we got. All right. So now the tight end. Do I need now? Yeah, so I'm in the camp of Perry. I think Franklin's a decent shot, which is most likely later season. So now this is where the 14 team or where the player pool is really going to shrink down. And the other running back is most likely. I know that my friend there in Team 2 is going to take this guy. We've talked about him, and I've drafted him a lot. So I'll take a shot that. If he doesn't pin me before in the corner, that he could be a factor in Dallas. But he's a small guy, a little quicker, a little more pass catcher. I'm not sure how it shakes out, but we'll see. Now we're just Ravens defense. So we're taking Ravens defense to play in the Chiefs the first week. So, but maybe have a favorable schedule. We're going an hour and 29 minutes on this. let's see here. Yeah, so yeah, the Dotson traded Boyd, third receiver from Tennessee. Franklin, the reason Franklin's a player of interest to me is that he played with Bo Nix at Oregon. He's 6'2", like 180 or something, like a thin guy, but he has some experience. And I think that if Sutton has any kind of issue, he could emerge. They don't really have much at tight end. They do throw the running backs a lot in Denver. But he's a viable flyer. I do think Perry, I mentioned earlier, that he's a player of interest. And I have 5, so I got 5 receivers. I'm going to have to make sure I get to like 6 or 7. But most likely, like Franklin's the type of guy that even if somebody drafted him, he would most likely get dropped because of if he doesn't do anything early in the year. But the other one, that Hyatt, is a player I liked last year. Had him a lot. Didn't really get a chance. He needs an injury out of Slayton maybe. Those guys go kind of late. The running back position, there's really not much there. I mean, Shipley's a player of interest, and he should get handcuffed now. Sanders should get handcuffed with Chuba Hubbard or the other player, the other Carolina running back. But they're just so I need two a kicker and a defense. I need 4 more players. Most likely, maybe 1 or 2 running backs. 1 or 2 running backs. Maybe I probably need another tight end just in case I need somebody to cover, but like a playable value. And there's still, out of that grouping right there, Komet I like the most, but it's really messy there. Otten will have some games and be really tough to time. Henry's going to miss some time, so I'm going to take him. Mayer's a guy I liked last year. Didn't really get to where I thought. They added the other tight end there, so he can be tough. But I think Gesicki's the one that's going to have some games and be a little better than people expect. Okonkwo has, a chance to be a lot better there in that offense, but it is kind of a lot of competition. So Gesicki is a guy that might be able to fill in to cover a bye week, but he's team 12, bye week 12. So you waited on the quarterback on team 10, and he took Stafford and Mayfield. I mean, to me, I would much rather have Rodgers than him. I would rather have Rodgers than Cousins, Stafford, Herbert, Mayfield, Levis. I'd rather have Rodgers over Tua, even though Tua's got 2 good receivers. I think that Miami ran the ball in close. Third receiver hasn't really emerged. They don't really have a tight end. I think the options are better. Rodgers has thrown 35 touchdown passes in more and more seasons. But here we go. But that's what we got. So Dotson, Komet, and I think I'll go 2 more picks to see what it makes to me, and then I'll bang out of this and see what happens if anybody watches it or not. But it's definitely interesting doing a 14-team draft, especially on the fly when I'm not really I'm not scrolling through the queue to see what the players are. I mean, I know who I'm looking for names. I'm not really scrambling, and I've done so many, and it's like I said, they're close enough to what I'm used to. If I'm going to play a defense week 1, I think I'm going to see what happens to the defenses. I'm not really totally in tune. I think Cincinnati plays the Patriots first week, so I'm going to go with them as the defense, and we'll see what happens. I think Seattle plays Bo Nix. They might be a viable week 1. Just play and then move on to a better one. But I guess probably in a 14-team format, I probably should have 2 defenses. One I can kind of lean on and maybe rotate the other one, because I think they kind of pick them apart a little bit. So like the 49ers could be, they play the Jets the first week. Kansas City plays Baltimore. Detroit, I think they play the Rams. I'm not 100% sure. Atlanta's at home. Philly. Yeah, I mean, I looked at these schedules and I draw on blanks. The Jets defense would be actually interesting. Well, I'm actually on the kickers. That's why they look better. I don't care about the kicker right now. So, my bag. Sorry. I'm shopping in the wrong lane. That's not going to. So Jets, Cowboys, Ravens, and Cleveland's defense has gone off the board. Quarterbacks are kind of going now. So let's see here. Yeah. Yeah, the only other, probably the only two players I would probably want to make sure I got, and which I drafted a lot, is Vaughn. And it's not like for sure he's a lock, but I like to see what happens for 2 or 3 weeks in Dallas to see if he has a chance. And I think Perry's a guy of interest. I could add a third receiver from the Jets, maybe to rotate in, just in case Williams. I don't know when he's going to play. Team 10 is going to rotate a third quarterback, so he's going to gets the structure of his team. And he's just going to rotate him in. And Shipley went to Taylor team. Patterson, another handcuff. A lot of broken running back situations here. Yeah. But so Burton. Yeah, a lot of this this team, the waiver wire will be a little bit thinner in a 14-team league, and but if you can be ahead of the curve, you might be able to find something. So, but from 8 to 14, 12 picked the 8th round to the 12th round. I mean, I don't think I got anybody that stood out as a difference maker. Eckler will help a little bit. I do like Williams a lot. Wright's more of an upside swing, just taking a handcuff away from an opponent. Algier, that he shouldn't have sat around that, likely, does have upside. I do like the Tolbert and Rodgers area of the draft. Pittsburgh Steelers defense went off the board. Yeah, I mean, I guess I should scroll up a little bit so you can see a little more of the drafts. And I don't. I guess I can put, when I put this up, I can. You know what? I don't know if I can put the link for. Oh yeah, I can copy the draft board. I'll put the draft board up when I can just copy it. That one won't have the names, which I shouldn't be showing anyways. But who follows me on FantasySubstack.com? FantasyAnalyst.substack.com. Whittingham, big kid for the Rams, has some upside, kind of insurance for if somebody drafted, Cup or Puka. Sam Darnold's the handcuff for Burrow, team 12. Let's see here. So what will happen in the next 4 picks? Kansas City Chiefs. Yeah. He's got 1, 2, 4, 5. Yeah, this is. I don't think Deuce Vaughn makes it past the Dallas Cowboy contingent there. So if he didn't make it, I'd probably take Sanders just to take a running back and see what happens, because Juba Hubbard had a little bit of issue, and Sanders was paid a lot of money. So, well, let's see here. You're going to take a Deuce, or are you going to go another way? You got the other Dallas running back. You might as well cover him, I would think. Spears. But, so somebody took the Cincinnati defense, like I said. Who did that? So he took Henry. So, well, he missed on him. He missed on him. I pick quick. I picked Vaughn and Perry. But that's the drop off there for as far, like I said, as running backs and stuff like that. All right, I think I got 4 more picks to go, to a kicker and a defense. Not much out there. If you make it through this, thanks. And so this is my first, really. I did one high stakes draft, different format, but it was a slow draft. But I have a few of the FFPC drafts coming up, and potentially could do the same thing. We'll see how the feedback of this goes, and thanks for watching.